Hey, it's Ted here. I'm going to give you a quick tour of my shop today. Recently I reconfigured everything in my shop to try to make it more efficient. I kind of found that I was avoiding some projects and my projects were taking a little bit longer than I'd like just because of some of the layout problems in my shop. I use my shop for quite a few different things such as car repair, motorcycle repair, bicycle repair, woodworking, Arduino projects and all of those things. So I really wanted to focus on improving the usability of my shop. To do that, I kind of broke everything down and thought about it in four kind of groups of items. First order of retrievability things, tools that I wanted to be able to immediately be able to just grab and go. Second order of retrievability, things that didn't have to be immediately at hand, but I used frequently and I wanted to be able to access them quickly if I needed to. Third order of retrievability, this is the type of stuff where I'm starting to go into, instead of being a usage item, it's more of a storage item. So might have to move around things, might need to use a step stool to get to it, might have to kind of walk around behind something to get to it. And then fourth order of retrievability items, long-term storage items. You know, I use my garage not just for as a workshop, but also for household storage, so camping equipment is in here as well. So I'll give you kind of a quick tour, discuss a bit of the usability, but I'm not going to go into a deep dive on any of my specific tools. If you have any questions on those, please leave a note in the comments and I'd be happy to kind of follow up with that and maybe even throw in an additional video on anything if you see something specific you want more information about. So on with the tour. So this is a quick scan around the garage just to give you a perspective. It's about 19 feet by 19 feet, so it really isn't very big, but within that space I can fit all my automotive tools, all my woodworking stuff, along with a car, 2 motorcycles, 4 road bikes, a myriad of camping equipment, and some other household items. And this is important because my homeowners association requires that any automotive work done has to occur within the garage with the garage door closed. Additionally, the motorcycles have to be parked in the garage at night. So it's important for me to be able to configure things in a way that, if necessary, I can get a car in here. You know, there might be a time when I can't finish a car repair all in one evening, so it's important to do that. Plus, I do have a sloped driveway, so I can't even actually push the car out of the garage and then push it back in by hand. So if it's disabled, it's got to be able to stay in here along with everything else. Okay, in this corner of the garage, I've got all of my automotive stuff, basically, all the automotive type tools and my drill press. Just starting on this side, moving to the side, I've got my drill bits up here that I use for the drill press. These are mostly metal oriented drill bits, cobalt, titanium coated, that type of stuff. They're all right here, so right when I want to use the drill press I can do it. I've got an air hose run over to here. Got a little light tucked in as well. The key thing is keeping the drill bits right with the drill press, keeping my lubricants for being able to work on the car as well. If anyone has any suggestions on a cutting tool oil that doesn't stink to high heaven, please leave a note in the comments, because this stuff is good, but it stinks. At the very top I've got my oil catch pan and actually a recycling tank up there as well. They're empty, so I don't mind having them up that high. Otherwise, if they were heavy, I wouldn't store it all up that high. The tool chest, the way it's stacked up, this top section isn't very particularly useful for me because it's difficult to see in. So it ends up being kind of a catch-all. But all my automotive tools, all my wrenches are in here. Most of the key wrenches that I use, my sockets, my main sockets, and open-end wrenches are all in these drawers. And then I've got all of my diagnostic and specialty tools in the rest of the drawers here. I also keep my step stool right here, tucked right underneath the drill press. Why I like this all set up, why this is put right here, is if a car is pulled into the shop, it's going to be right here. The whole engine compartment will be right in front of me. I can stand right here, do whatever I need to, grab the tools I need, set down any temporary tools I need to, and everything's immediately accessible for me. Moving around to the side, we start to move out of the automotive kind of area and into more of the woodworking, general project type of stuff. So I do have some things clipped to the wall. Up at the top there, I've got my dovetail jig. I don't use it very often, so I don't mind having it up there out of the way. I also have my wheel truing stand up there as well. Same kind of thing. It's not frequently used, so I don't mind having it up there. I've also got my battery powered Ryobi fan. My girlfriend gave this to me several years ago as a gift, and it's wonderful. The great thing about it here is that it actually can blow the full length down, the whole workbench that I use the most. It's battery powered, and I can take it right off of here and I can bring it to any place I want to in the shop, especially if I'm working on the car. It's easy to just grab it off, put it if I'm underneath or anything like that. Because I'm in Georgia, if I'm working on a car in the summer, it's hot in here still because I don't have the garage air conditioned. Over here, obviously, I've got shop towels. Get into all of my cordless tools up here. I just have them on utility hooks. It's not sexy right now, but it's super functional, and I can easily grab anything I want, pull it off, just throw it back up there, and I'm ready to go. All of my fasteners are here. Key fasteners, the stuff I use the most, is all located here on the right, and then moving to the left, it's everything that I use less. A couple of power outlets right there. I've got my 2 battery chargers right here. Recycling center, of course. A couple of my home hardware store kind of drawers right here. And then tucked in below, I actually have my floor jacks for doing automotive work. So I've got 2 floor jacks tucked underneath there with the handle taken off. The workbench itself is nothing sexy. It's one of the first projects I did when I actually bought my jointer and my thickness planer. It's all just stacked 2x4s, planed and glued together. It's still been fantastic. I did recently add a TV to the shop, and it's something that I've wanted for quite a while. It lets me kind of double use my time, both to watch the sports that I'm interested in. I watch some that are very time intensive. MotoGP, Formula One, tennis, those kinds of things use up a lot of time, and I don't want to spend all that time just on the couch. So being able to have that stuff playing in the background while I'm doing things is great. I did mount the TV on an articulated arm so it can point around to different places in the shop while I'm working. Additionally, I've got it set up where I have a Bluetooth transmitter hooked up to the headphone outline, and this allows it to send the audio signal from the TV into the headphones that I use for hearing protection in the shop. One of the things that I found when I was working in SketchUp was that I ended up with this kind of dead space between my main electrical panel in the house and then the sub panel that I put in to add 320 amp circuits in the garage. That space ended up just kind of being dead, both in itself and then also the fact that I lost wall space with the sub panels. Obviously I don't want to put something over those sub panels that I can't move, but I did want to kind of reclaim that space. So what I did, I actually, as kind of like a rehab project for myself when I hurt my back a few years ago, I made a tool chest to hold all of my woodworking tools. What this does, and the reason why it's actually asymmetric, is that when these doors open up, they open up right over the circuit panels. So, and then I can open this guy up and it completely covers over and fully utilizes that entire wall space. And I actually have just a little bit more space that I could add another flip out here. And this has been great. I was late to the game doing one of these wall tool chests, but it's been fantastic. It always kind of seemed like a little bit cluttered to me to have all your tools out and exposed, but I'm really starting to buy into it now. So as we kind of work our way down, this whole bench area is really where I can do probably 90% of all of my work. Any small to medium sized projects can all be handled right here, be it on the workbench, on the counter here, on the other counter. I do have my table saw and joiner on the other side, and they're very accessible right from here. This tool chest that I put up here, or this cabinet, is something new that I did. Took all of these power tools out of their blow molded cases. They had been stored in these cabinet areas below. That kept my planer in a different place. I had to shuffle that around. This planer is very heavy. Again, I really don't want to have to lift that if I don't have to. So I put all these things here, and it's great because I've got my pin nailer, my brad nailer, my jigsaw, router, trim router, sanders, biscuit joiner, general purpose and brad point bits right here, sandpaper, hold downs, some great utility clamps right here. These aren't all my clamps, but these quick clamps are great for a lot of projects, and anything I'm doing really quickly, those are fantastic for that. I also keep my safety protection right here, some safety glasses and earmuffs right here, so that if I want to take them off, I'm just putting them away. And that's the great thing about this whole thing. With air being run here, I can use something, I can use this pin nailer connected to an air line, and instead of setting it down here, I can just put it away while I'm working in the project. And that's the same with the router bits, or with the routers, the jigsaw, any of this type of stuff. I never have to set it down. I can always be putting it away. And that helps me a lot with my projects and speeding things up, because I'm not tripping over those tools, and at the end when I'm done for the day or done with the project in total, I don't have to clean that stuff up. It's always done. I'm more inclined to use the right tool when I want to. In this bench top, I do have T-tracks both here and here that function double duty. They work as stop blocks for the miter saw, and as I said, you can use them for the little clamp pull downs here. So, and I just have a little piece of T-track mounted right here on this shelf that allows me to grab these little pull downs, slide them in, use them to do whatever, and those are fantastic. You know, I've got some long-term storage kind of tools. These are Automotive Tools, you know, manifold gauges, power probe, compression tester, manual sandpaper. So these, again, you know, not going into too much of the detail, but these are all still these kind of first and second order of retrievability things right here that I want. And that really extends to all of this type of stuff. You know, I've got my belt and spindle sander right here. I want to get it onto a cart, but it's not there yet. But it's not too heavy. It's not too hard for me to be able to take this out, lift it up. I can either use it right here, which can in fact get a little bit in the way, or something I can do, this smart cart. You can't get it in the Home Depot stores. You can get it online though. It's great because you can actually pull this thing out, and then it actually gives you a work surface on top of it. So I can really just drop this belt sander right on top of here, and I've got myself a little workstation. This thing's fantastic. It's got storage for the hose. It's got storage for all of the attachments for it, which is great for me. It keeps everything all in one place, not falling around. I do have my thickness planer right here. It's super heavy, so I hate having to lift this thing up, so I don't. It's mounted on a cart. I can just pull it out, turn it 90 degrees, and once it's pulled out in this position, I have no problem running boards of virtually any size through this. If I'm going to do a lot of milling, I can run the hose. I do have a long flexible hose from my dust collector that I can connect directly up to it. But in a pinch, I can connect it to my shop vac. And it does well enough with the dust ejection on its own that the shop vac will cover a lot of, you know, little projects. And again, this is one of those things where, you know, you don't want to have to go through, if I just want to plane one little part, I don't want to have to fully reconfigure the shop. I want to be able to just pull this out really fast, run the piece through, and be done. The tools that I've got underneath the miter saw are all really project-specific tools. This case has stuff for doing fine electronics like Arduino projects and so on. This one has tools to do bicycle repair. And the cool thing about this is what I can do is I can just obviously pull this toolkit out, drop it here, and now within 15 seconds I've got first order retrievability on everything that I want for doing bike repair. Everything's right here. 90% of my wrenches are in these two compartments and I'm off and running. So as we continue down towards the end of the workbench, we run into kind of the last few things, and that are, I do have some sawhorses here and a piece of plywood that I can use. I can actually throw this out really quickly. For medium-sized projects, the sawhorse and just plywood tabletop really give me a lot of additional space and versatility. Again, between the whole counter along the side here and this little table, I can probably cover 90 to 95% of my projects. If I'm going to do something, and it only takes me 30 seconds to set this up, on my near-term list of projects is to replace this sawhorse set and top with something more akin to the Ron Paulk design. If you folks are familiar with that, he's got a great design. And the nice thing about that is the sawhorses are made just out of 1/2-inch plywood. So each sawhorse is only 1 inch thick. I could, in the same amount of space that I could actually store 4 sawhorses and 2 work surfaces, giving me double, even probably more than double the amount of space than this gives me, all without having to bring out the big assembly table. I also have a drawer right here which has my, this is the handle for the vacuum, but it's got my bench grinder in it. I do have a ball spinning machine for resurfacing bowling balls. My son's really into bowling, so I need that. But I've got the belt grinder, I've got my angle grinder right here, and that's all because I've got my metalworking vise over here. I want to keep this pretty much, I want to try to keep this as much away from the woodworking stuff as possible. But it's great because I can, in a pinch, use the bench grinder right here. If I'm going to do a lot more, I can just lift it out, set it onto the counter, and go to town. Last couple things here, I do have my tennis ball machine tucked underneath in a little kind of garage space underneath that drawer with the bench grinder. But I've got my bandsaw here. It does wheel out, but even without wheeling it out, I can use it right here. I can quickly plug it into the wall. I could run something small through this and be off and running. Everything that I've shown you along this wall so far has largely been that first and second order of retrievability stuff that I want to have immediate access or be able to do very minimal moving to be able to get it. And all of that stuff I can reach without even grabbing the step stool. Above it, I do have additional storage space. I've got lumber rack over here, and then I do have more storage space up here. The camera angle makes it look a little weird, but the top of this cabinet is actually even with the track for the garage door. So, and that helps to keep from having anything extend beyond the garage door track so that it doesn't get caught. Okay, so this is my whole table saw area, and as you saw, it's directly across the garage from that whole workbench area, and that's great. What I can do with this, if I want to do something small, I can use it right here. It is connected to my dust collection. The dust collection is on a switch, on a remote control, so I can just turn it on and off as I need to. If I do need to run bigger boards, I can easily pull this out, and it increases my ability to do longer stuff. I even have a rigid outfeed support that I can throw back there to catch long boards. If I needed to do something like a full sheet of plywood, need to run something like that, at this point all I need to do is turn it this way, and I'm now oriented where I've got this in the same place that a car would be. I can move it just a little bit more, and I could run full sheets of plywood without having to mess with the garage door. I won't go through a detailed breakdown of the table saw. Just a couple of key things. My crosscut sled is right here up front. The way that this is mounted, I just have a couple of dowels there, and I have a little track along this edge of the miter saw, or of the crosscut sled, and it allows me to just hang it right here on the front, and it goes wherever the table saw goes. I do, as for my extension here, I do have a router extension to my table. It's great because I can use the fence to back up my router fence. If anyone's interested in kind of how this setup works, just leave me a comment and I'll probably do a video on that. Then we get into all of this type of stuff, this super long-term storage. I've got my lumber cart here. I'm really trying to cut down on the amount of full sheets of plywood that I just warehouse in the shop here. All this type of stuff is in that third order level, you know. It's reachable because I don't have to move anything to get to it, especially in that the most needed things are accessible right here. Anything that's less accessible is all in the lower shelves or in the higher shelves. So this is what the front of the assembly table looks like. Like I said, I've got a bunch of clamps along the front here, some Jorgensen, some Bessie, but a whole bunch of, you know, cheap eBay clamps that aren't great, but they do serve the purpose. Again, I don't mind having these over here because I end up using these far less frequently than the quick clamps that I've got over on the main workbench, but they are accessible if I need to. The nice thing about having them right here is that if I am doing a big glue up on the assembly table, they're right there for me. I don't have to go to a wall or anything like that. They're right there immediately at hand. To pull this out, this thing is heavy, it is big. So with this pulled out, you know, I have an enormous area to do glue ups or any kind of work that I want to. Any of you folks that may have watched the old Woodworks, David Marks' old show Woodworks, which was fantastic. It was one of the projects on that show was doing this assembly tabletop. It's a torsion box tabletop assembly table made out of MDF. It's huge, it's perfectly flat, but it is heavy as all get out. So I am interested in swapping this out with kind of more of a Polk style, but it's not hugely important to me now because, again, it's on wheels, I can move it around. Underneath this, I do have a bunch of storage. That's all really long-term stuff. This is actually, as you can kind of see, it's the same height as the table saw, so I can use this as an outfeed table as well. Additionally, that means that the space underneath here can store the table saw if I need to. So yeah, that's pretty much all of my shop. I hope you found some information that might be helpful for you. The key things for me, like I said, was being able to set up my shop in a way that I never had any obstacle in being able to do my small to medium size projects and have a shop set up in a way that I could scale it to big stuff as I need to, or bigger and bigger projects. If you have any other questions, if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you did find this video to be helpful to you, please give it a thumbs up. Like I said, if there's anything that you might want to see in a future video, let me know and leave that in the comments as well. Thanks a lot and have a safe time in the shop.